Hi everyone, welcome back to Love and Life Sorted. I'm Dr. Sandy Toe, and today we're going to be talking about thriving single versus thriving married. There are just so many ways that one can thrive as a single accomplished woman and single accomplished man, and versus someone who can thrive as a married single accomplished woman or man, because what inspired me is that I've seen just so many posts and so many people commenting and debating about thriving as a single person, how it's so great to be single and unattached in your life, that there's so many things you can do to thrive, right? And it's getting married is not the only route. Well, conversely, there are also people arguing how blissful it is to be married and to thrive in a completely different way as an individual, right? I'm sure you've seen dozens of these debates going around. And, I think, it's valid in both cases, because it really made me look back upon my life before I was married and how, the days when I was a single and carefree woman, living and working, so and studying and everything. I think about those days fondly. Yeah, it these debates about single versus married. It just really made me look back, with a lot of nostalgia in my days of being a single woman. That I have thrived in ways that I couldn't have when compared to being married. Yeah, so first let's talk about single and thriving. How you can thrive in a certain way if you're a single and unattached man or woman. This got me thinking about the days when I was doing my PhD in Cambridge. So I was very, very much single. Yeah, and I think the majority of people who were doing their PhDs were single. Yeah, I think versus partnered or married, there were just a handful, maybe very, very few people that I know who are married. Well, in my case, I only know two people amongst my classmates who were already married during that time when they were doing their PhDs. Usually people do it when they're in their early 20s to early 30s. I would say for the people I know, yeah, so some of them, they launched immediately into it upon their undergrad, and then they just went on to do master's and PhD. They never worked before in the middle, but that was not my case because I had done several different things. I've worked before, and I've also changed subjects in between. Yeah, because I used to study English literature during my undergrad days, right? And so then I switched majors, and then I did a PhD in sociology. Yeah, so I think I was a little bit older than the people who were doing the PhD in my cohort. Yeah, but so that actually gives me a lot of advantage, not because of seniority, okay? Don't get me wrong. Okay, yeah, well, okay, maybe a little bit of seniority, a little bit of life experience, right? So to add on that, yeah, and so beyond that, it's more it gives me a bit of a more of an opportunity to savor the single life, because the people surrounding me were a little bit younger, a few years younger than me. And so they were on a different timeline than my peers. So by that time, most of my peers were partnered up. Even if not married, they were about to be married, something like that, right? So they were happily partnered up, and I was the only single one. So when I went off to do my PhD, I met a whole bunch of single people. Yeah, single boys and girls that I could hang out with. Yeah, and it just made me feel much more thriving than I would have been when I was at home, right? Because it's like a party every day. It's like a bunch of single people hanging out and living the life. So I consider myself being very lucky that I met all these friends who are single. Yeah, because if your friends were on a different timeline, they were all married or they had partners, they wouldn't have so much time to hang out with you, right? So like in a way, you sort of have to go out and pave your own path again. You have to go out and seek people who are on the same path as you. Yeah, so for me, it just like fell into my lap. Like I was surrounded by these like a bunch of single people. And so I got to like do whatever I want. I could hang out with them. I could like in the mornings I would do all the research, studying, reading, writing that I could. And I could skip meals. I could just like survive on snacking alone when I was too busy to cook or anything. I sometimes like went way beyond like 9 o'clock, like at night. Maybe I was really busy writing something. I just totally lost track of time. And in the first time in my life, I, skipped dinner. Like I skipped eating like a regular meal as I would if I were at home. Because like at home I had my parents to cook for me, and they would remind me, like even though no one's cooking, like they would remind you to go eat at like at 7 p.m. or something. Right? That was the norm every day. And so you would be sort of interrupted in the middle of your work, and then you would have to go and sit down and eat a proper meal with your family, right? So when I was like alone, like very, very alone, like I could work into the wee hours and I could lose track of time, and then like suddenly look to see it's like 9, and then well, okay, there's nothing. I didn't cook anything, nothing in the fridge. It was like a shared fridge, like in the dorm, right? So yeah, of course I couldn't go eating someone else's food. Okay, so I just like took a box of cereal from the cabinet and poured myself a cup of milk and then just ate cereal for dinner. So the first time in my life, like I just thought, oh, so free, like the taste of freedom, that I could do whatever I want, like whatever time I want, and not be interrupted in my studies and everything. And I can just like be very, very hyper productive and also live on my own terms. Yeah, so that's like the perfect example of living on your own terms completely without any outside hindrance, right? So yeah, I felt good. It was, I really did feel that I was thriving during my time doing my PhD, because yeah, like as I said, I could do whatever I want, and on weekends I could just sleep until whatever hour that I want without interruption, and then I could go out and eat whatever breakfast I want. Sometimes I just made my own piece of toast, or sometimes I went to like a Chinese restaurant in town, and I ate some dim sum. Like maybe I ordered like 2 or 3 plates of dim sum, and then I would just like eat it on my own and read and like look at the savor the ambience, or go outside for a walk afterwards, go sit on the grass and like just go smell the grass and look at the sky and look at people flying kites, like on Midsummer Common. It was like the communal park in the middle of the town. Yeah, so it was like really nice, like bring out a book and just go read beside the river. I think like all single people, you have that feeling, right, that you could like have a lazy weekend all to yourself and like just lose track of time and not have to be accountable to anyone, no responsibilities at all. That feeling, right? So like you could do the laundry if you want. If you don't, then just go out and buy something to wear, right? So like yeah, I still remember that period when I really felt that I was thriving on my own, yeah, with not a care in the world. And yeah, of course you get lonely sometimes, and that is quite often too, because, okay, so in the UK, as people who've been there know, who live there know, like the weather is not perfect. And there's like, in the winter, it gets dark at 4. Okay, and like in Cambridge, in a small town like Cambridge, the shops start to close at around, I don't know, 5-ish or something. So the whole city just like shuts down. So there's not much activity going on besides inside the colleges, right? So even if you wanted to grab a bite, you wanted to buy something from Pret or something, you better hurry, right? Before it's 5. And then things just close down. And that's the time. That's pretty much about the only time that I would start to feel a little lonely, because the sky's getting dark. Yeah. So yeah, it's surprising how your mood really does shift with the weather. Yeah, and with the sky condition, it really affects you, really. Like when the sun is out and the sky's bright, you just feel like really, really free and really elated. But once the sky gets dark, and even worse, if it rains, oh my God, if it rains, it just gets so gloomy. And I just so remember the feeling that it's not a good feeling to have to go back to the dorm and be by yourself. Yeah, so okay, rest assured. So that time is when I don't go back home to do my stuff. Okay, so whenever I do have that feeling, I start getting lonely, or whenever, like during the weekends, I just don't want to spend it alone. I don't want to spend another weekend alone. I remember I once I called up my friend and I said, oh my God, like I texted my friend. I was like, I'm getting depressed. And then she said, hey, come over to London. Okay, yeah, my friend Anne, yeah, shout out to her. One of these days, like she is gonna come on. Like she promised she'd come on the show. Yeah, she's one of my best pals. And we've survived singlehood together in London, back in the UK, and yeah, we're thriving now as married women, also back in Hong Kong. So yeah, we have a lot of common and affinity, and yeah, it's a very fateful, great friendship that we have since childhood. So I would hop on a train to London and spend the night at her place. And but mind you, she's not single, actually. Like she's like my only non-single friend at that time. She was seeing someone, yeah. And but still, she would be there if I felt I needed some company. So she would say, oh yeah, come over to London and then we can hang out for the weekends, so you don't have to spend it alone. So yeah, at times when I was like stressful, because okay, my work, my research, it's like going great, but it's also very stressful because I have to hand in so much work to my supervisor. So this is the same feeling as when you're like working in the office, and sometimes you're like the work goes well, some days it doesn't go that well, and sometimes you get stressed out and you really want some company. Yeah, so you really want like someone to lean on. And that's when, if you're single, then that's when you rely on your single girlfriends, or girlfriends who are there for you, right? So at that time, like I would like quickly, jet off to London for the weekend and, spend like a really great weekend, like with my friend and her friends, and, be fed with like good food and good hospitality and doses of Sex and the City on the TV, right? And then we would, and then I would be very replenished and then go back to Cambridge and, go through my singlehood journey again, as a PhD student. Yeah, and for days when I didn't go to London, I relied on my other friend. Like, she was single too. Her name's Humera, and another shout out to her. One of these days, she's also going to come on the show because she has just adopted a baby girl. Yeah, congratulations to her. I don't know if she's listening to this, but yeah, I really want to invite her to talk about her journey of being a new parent. Yeah, of adoption. Yeah. So yeah, she's really great too, and she's one of my best friends in at Cambridge. And so when I was, feeling a bit lonely, feeling a bit blue, I would text her, and I was always ready. I was always welcome to go over to her college to party. Yeah. So her door was always open, and the people there were always very hospitable, and I spent so many of my evenings there partying with them and hanging out with her and her friends. In St. Edmund's College. Yeah. So, those are one of the best days of my life because I found the balance between, working and also whenever I felt the need for company, I can always like have someone to rely on. I could always have someone to go to, her and a bunch of other single friends. Yeah, so it wasn't that, it was good, I was thriving on that level. And, yeah, and she would always check up with me to say, yeah, so how are you? But she knows that I don't have family around, like while she does, like in the country at least. So like she would sometimes invite me to go over to her families as well. And so like she was really great. Like she would check up on me to see what I needed, see if I needed anything, and so life was good. Life was good. Well, and then, life after that, after I came back and met my husband and got married and had a son, well, life took a very different turn. And yeah, I feel that I am thriving too, as like a married woman. So, with a son, and you take pride in other things, I think. So it's thriving beyond your own work. Yeah, so yeah, like now I sort of know how my married friends felt back then when I was single, right? So having been married and everything, it's not like thriving on like a purely personal level anymore. Yeah, so it's thriving that your family is thriving. I think it's more like a collective sort of thriving. It's so not just you anymore. Like your life is just not yours only to live because like you have like a little human also that you have to raise. And a husband you need to take care of, like we take care of each other. And so it's a very collective sort of feeling. So it's not thriving alone, but thriving together. And the feeling is interesting if you do put it into perspective and if you do actually analyze it, comparing to when like the phase that you were single. Yeah, so would I say that I am like thriving now? Yeah, I would, but in a very different manner than I was really carefree and totally myself. And so now you tend to lose yourself a little in this myriad of family responsibility. And like I would always look at my single self very fondly and think there's pros and cons to it, and I would never trade that for anything. I would never trade that phase for anything. So if you're single now, I would say that really like make use of this single thrivingness of yours, because life will be like very different once you are attached to someone, whether or not you have kids. But if you're attached to someone, then you sort of have to accommodate them into your life. You have more responsibilities towards them, and you can't obviously eat at like past 10, have nothing in the fridge at all for them. Like, yeah, you at the very least, like they're gonna be hungry, and even if you don't cook, you're gonna have to go out and eat something with them or order in or something. It's not just you, right? It's not just you just wanting to to slum it out at 10 and to not eat anything and just take a day off from stuff. You can't. The thing is, you can't take a day off from stuff. You can't go off in the weekends and do whatever you like. You can't laze around and have like a lazy morning doing nothing, just faire le grasse mat. Yeah, like the French say, have a lazy afternoon to yourself. Yeah, you can't do that anymore. Yeah, like especially if I've had my son, like the weekends are devoted to his activities. Like at least one like Saturday or something, it's devoted to like full of his activities. Yeah. And yeah, I was just telling my friend, like she has a boyfriend, but she's not married. But I was just telling her, and yeah, she doesn't live here. So I said, well, yeah, Saturdays are dedicated to activities for my son. Have to sort of transport him to and fro his lessons and his classes and his teams and everything. And then she's like, wow, can't believe it. Yeah, she for her it's like an eye opener. She, that I have to dedicate like one day. It's all for his activities. So for her, it's something that she can't imagine being a non-married person. Yeah, I know. All of this is very unbelievable. Before you have experienced it, I would never have known that this would happen. Life would take such a drastic turn when I was a single woman. Yeah, but that's not to complain, because thriving now, it's a different thing, because for once you don't actually have to feel lonely. You have a lot of company, right? And you never have to ask someone to check up on you, because there's like full of people that care about you in your life, like in very close proximity. And there's always like someone you can turn to, someone who can support you, and like a whole family under your roof and everything. Like, so you're never short of company. So that's like the key thing that I found was the difference between like a thriving single woman and a thriving married woman. Yeah, so I would say that like if you are like a single woman right now, make use of your time to thrive singly. Yeah, because once you do like get married, you found a partner, got married, have kids or not, you would be thriving in a very different way. Not to say you're not thriving, but like you don't really have that freedom anymore. And there are a lot of responsibilities. But thriving is different. It's like it's a different language. You would thrive as a mother, like you would thrive if your family is healthy. And yeah, it's not saying that you don't have your career or anything. Like a lot of women, they retain their careers even after they got married and had kids, or they do side projects, side hustles, a lot of different passion projects. So for me as well, like I feel like I'm thriving too doing this podcast thanks to you. And I have to announce too over here that I have gotten over 1,000 podcast downloads on the podcast platforms, not counting the number of plays, but just the number of downloads. Yeah, from 55 different countries and 248 cities across the world, thanks to you. So I'm just like always so grateful. I'm just so thankful. Yeah, when I got this news from Buzzsprout, yeah, my podcast host, I'm just so moved by your support, and I hope we can continue this journey of thriving, together. No matter if you're single or you're married, you'll still be thriving in very different ways. Yeah, so that's why I really wanted to do a contrast between, thriving as a single and thriving as a partnered person. It's just so completely different that you would never know it before you experienced it. And to make very good use of your single days now, because like thriving now, you would never get back when you are not single. Okay, so one day when you found a partner, you'll see, you'll really see that, you might even ask yourself, why didn't I spend more time, like living out those days as a single person with not a care in the world? And for married women, you thrive by balancing your career and your family life. So for women who are, still having their careers going on, like you thrive when you can successfully balance your work and your family life, and you feel that you have the best of both. Yeah, sometimes like some of these days, like one may be going better than the other. Yeah, we all have these days, but on the days that you can balance these things out and both are going, quite well, quite terrifically, then that's how you feel you can thrive the most. So that's how I can understand the debate between like whether it's better to be single or to be married, right? So they have, pros and cons to both. Yeah, I wouldn't say that being single for a long time is bad, because if you hadn't experienced that long stretch of being single and really living out your best, like your achievements and everything, like really living them out on your own, yeah, you would feel like at a loss if you had like found a partner really early and you hadn't had the chance to thrive on your own. Yeah, you would not know how that feeling goes and like that sense of freedom that you have. Yeah, and you just might get restless and a bit like resentful as well. But if you've had that long stretch of being single, so don't lament that you're still single when a lot of people have been attached already. Yeah, because like you have all that time to yourself until you get hitched, right? So the longer stretch you have being single, the more you would come to look back and appreciate it once you're married, have your own family, and you don't have that luxury anymore of thriving single. Yeah, so to be honest, yeah, like once you do get on that train, you can never look back. Yeah, you don't have those single glory days again, except after like 20 years later. Yeah, 20 years later, when your kids have gone off to college, that's when you get to experience that that thriving solo feeling again. When you don't, what one responsibility is off of your sleeve. Okay, but you still have your partner to consider, right? Yeah, so you're still not completely like free to do everything you want, I would think. Yeah, you still have other people's feelings and other people's like to be responsible for. So yeah, still you're not gonna look back. So it is actually, not bad, not all that bad to be single for a longer stretch in your life, because yeah, like trust me, you're that's all you get. Okay, so that thriving single feeling is all you get during that time. And then later on, once you're partnered, it just never does come back. Yeah, I also got like this comment, like this review from someone who said, I'm imposing my my need for finding a partner onto other people. Well, since how would I actually have the ability to do that? And why would I want to do that? Everyone has their own autonomy, I thought, have their own personal agency to do things. Like, how can I actually impose what I want on other people? Just because I, want this, want to find a partner doesn't mean that everyone wants to, right? So it's interesting. So I would only, provide advice or help or experience to people who want to listen to it, to people who are interested in finding a partner. So no need to pick on me, because there are plenty of other podcasts who teach people to be single and happy, and they're not into finding any partner. They just want to live a single life. They can go listen to those podcasts for people who are not interested in finding a partner, right? So yeah, of course, I do understand the debate. There is a lot of merit in being single. Once I look back upon my days as a single, thriving woman, there is a lot to be proud of. There is a lot to thrive. And yeah, of course, there's a lot of merit in that. And there's pros and cons, as with married life too, right? As I just analyzed. So I can understand why there's like the debate that some people think it's great to stay single and, there's no need to find someone because you're, can do pretty well on your own too, right? You can thrive pretty well on your own. Yeah, I totally get that. Come on, I've been there for years and years. Of course I remember. And as I said, like I look back on those days so fondly. Yeah, so I can understand the debate completely. So yeah, people pick their own choices, right? Like you choose what you want, and there's freedom of choice for everyone. So yeah, like you can thrive as a single person and thrive as a married person, but in very vastly different ways. Yeah, so I would say that, those of you who haven't found a partner yet, this is the time for you to make use of, thriving in your singlehood, because that is the last of the time that you will find to have this opportunity. Because once you're partnered, then, it's gone. You can never look back again. Yes, remember this. Yeah. So it really taught me a lesson too, and gave me the chance to reminisce about my single days, like thriving in my single days too, like versus thriving in my married days. Like they're just so vastly different. It's really worth having a look, and yeah, maybe like even writing about it in detail. So I urge you to, like, for those of you who aren't married yet, who are looking to find a partner, really, like, don't get discouraged, because try to look at it, like, in a different light that I just have, that, like, you are totally thriving and killing it now on your own, and like by the time that you do find a partner, you'll be killing it in another way. Yeah, so thriving, like either way, you will thrive both as a single person and as a married person. And I was glad that I got to analyze this with you. Right, okay, so thank you so much for being here. And remember to subscribe to Love and Life Sorted so you don't miss an episode. And hop onto our IG page if you want to see more fun stuff. And yeah, thank you so much for your support again, that I have over 1,000 downloads from you. And take care, have a great week, and I'll see you again next week. Bye!